My name is Cameron Vale. I did not believe in cursed towns before Briar Hollow. I believed in bad history, corruption, cover-ups, and human cruelty. I believed people forgot things because it was easier than remembering. But Briar Hollow did not forget. It erased. I know that now because before I ever understood what was happening, the town tried to erase someone right in front of me. And worse than that, it tried to make me help. I did not arrive chasing a ghost story. I arrived chasing paperwork, missing records, gaps in public archives, names that stopped existing halfway through sentences. I thought that kind of thing only happened online. I did not expect it to happen inside my own head. And I definitely did not expect to find a grave with my initials on it. If you have ever had the feeling that something important slipped out of your memory without permission, if you have ever tried to remember a face or a name and felt nothing but blank space, stay with me, like the video, subscribe, because this story is not about what hides in the dark. It is about what disappears in plain sight. I found Briar Hollow by accident, or at least that is what I told myself at first. I was researching cold cases that never made national headlines, small-town deaths that closed too quickly, names that appeared once in a local paper and then never again. Briar Hollow kept appearing in footnotes, a missing persons report referenced and then removed, a court case summarized in one sentence with no outcome listed, a hospital record that ended mid-paragraph, like someone had hit delete and walked away. It bothered me more than it should have. I live in Denver. I'm used to noise, crowds, constant motion. Briar Hollow was only 4 hours away, tucked behind a stretch of highway most people used as a shortcut and never thought about again. The drive was normal until it wasn't. My phone signal dropped all at once, no gradual fade, no warning. 1 second I had music streaming. The next second the screen showed nothing but a hollow little icon where bars used to be. The trees thickened fast, tall, close, swallowing the sky. I remember thinking it felt like driving into a held breath. Then the sign appeared, Briar Hollow. No welcome message, no population count, just the name, faded and chipped, like someone had tried to scrape it away and failed. I slowed without meaning to. The town itself looked almost ordinary. That was the unsettling part. If it had looked abandoned or decayed, my instincts would have known what to do. But Briar Hollow was alive. Houses stood upright, lawns were cut, storefronts were intact. There were people moving around, but not many, just enough to prove the place was still occupied. Yet something about the way they moved my shoulders tighten. No one rushed, no one lingered. Everyone seemed to exist in a careful middle ground, like they were afraid of being noticed for too long. I parked in front of the diner because diners are honest places. People talk in them, they complain, they grieve, they remember. Or so I thought. The diner. The bell above the door chimed when I stepped inside, and the sound landed wrong, too loud, too sharp. The diner smelled of coffee, grease, and cleaning spray, familiar smells that should have been comforting. Instead, they made the room feel sealed, like the air had nowhere to go. A woman behind the counter looked up, mid-50s, hair pulled back tight, lines around her mouth that spoke of long years spent holding her tongue. She smiled after a second too long. "What can I get you, hun?" "Coffee," I said.
She poured it without asking questions. Black. Set it down. Her hands never shook, but I noticed the way her knuckles stayed tense even after she let go of the pot. "You passin' through?" she asked. Her tone was casual, her eyes were not. I told her I was researching small towns, history.
"Stories people forget." Her smile thinned. "We do fine here," she said. "Not forgotten." The correction came fast, like a reflex. I noticed what was missing before I noticed what was there. No newspapers, no obituaries pinned to corkboards, no flyers for memorials or fundraisers or lost bets. The bulletin board behind the counter held a menu, a church bake sale from last year, and nothing else. It was a town without public grief. A man sat 2 stools down from me, eating eggs. He looked like he worked with his hands, oil-stained jacket, heavy boots. He kept glancing at the door like he was waiting for someone who was late. I asked about the cemetery. The woman behind the counter stopped moving. The man's fork froze halfway to his mouth. The silence stretched, thin and brittle. "Why would you want to see that?" the woman asked. I shrugged. "History." She stared at me for a long moment, then sighed. "Old Orchard Road," she said. 10 minutes out." Her voice lowered. "People go there to remember." The man swallowed and muttered, "If they still can." No one explained what that meant. I left cash on the counter and walked out with the sense that I had crossed an invisible line. The cemetery. Old Orchard Road narrowed until it became gravel. The trees leaned closer, branches knitting together overhead. The sunlight thinned until it felt filtered, weak. The gate to the cemetery was rusted but intact, closed, not locked, like a suggestion instead of a barrier. Briar Hollow Cemetery. I pushed the gate open. It screamed. Inside, the ground was maintained, grass trimmed, fresh flowers placed carefully. Someone cared. That made it worse. The headstones were blank, not worn down, not vandalized, blank by design. Rows and rows of pale markers with no names, no dates, no words, just stone. Some stones bore phrases without identity: beloved mother, beloved son, gone too soon, but no names. I crouched beside a fresh grave. The dirt was dark and damp. A small teddy bear sat at the edge. Someone had written on its tag, "Love you always." No name. My stomach twisted. I tried to take photos. Each image blurred the moment it saved. The stones smeared into soft shapes like my camera refused to acknowledge them. That was when I noticed the smaller stone, tucked behind a larger one, half hidden. This one had markings, just 2 letters, scratched shallow and uneven. CV. My initials. I laughed under my breath, sharp and nervous. Coincidence, pattern-seeking, my brain reaching, but my body knew better. The air thickened. Then I heard it. "Remember me?" Not shouted, not whispered, spoken the way someone talks when they are afraid you are already forgetting them. I backed away from the grave without turning my back. In the corner of my vision, I thought I saw a figure standing between the rows, still, watching. When I blinked, it was gone. I left the cemetery shaking, heart hammering, mind racing. As I drove back toward town, one thought kept repeating louder than the rest. This place does not just bury people, it buries the memory of them, and somehow, impossibly, it had already started working on me. I did not leave Briar Hollow after the cemetery. That should tell you everything about how quickly the town got inside my head. A smarter version of me would have driven straight back toward the highway, toward cell service and noise and witnesses.
I would have convinced myself the grave was a coincidence, the voice a trick of the wind, the blank headstones a local tradition I did not understand. Instead, I booked a room. The motel sat at the edge of town, a low concrete building with flickering lights and doors that opened directly to the parking lot, the kind of place you expect to smell like old carpet and regret. The clerk barely looked up when I checked in. He slid the key across the counter and said, "Room 12. No name asked, no ID checked." I should have found that comforting. I did not. The night settles. Room 12 was clean in the way places get clean when no one stays long. The bedspread was stiff. The air smelled faintly of bleach. I set my bag down and stood still, listening. The town sounded muted. No distant traffic, no sirens, no dogs barking, just the occasional whisper of wind through the trees and the low hum of electricity. I sat on the bed and pulled out my notebook. I tried to write down what I had seen at the cemetery, but the words kept slipping. I wrote blank stones. When I looked back, the sentence read stones. I wrote CV on grave. When I blinked, the letters were gone. My pen hovered over the page, my pulse climbing. I flipped back through earlier notes. Everything before Briar Hollow was intact. Names, dates, details. Everything after my arrival felt thinner, like ink on wet paper. I stood up, heart racing, and said my own name out loud, Cameron Vale. The sound felt solid in my mouth. I repeated it again, louder. Nothing answered. I told myself I needed sleep. Exhaustion could explain a lot. I lay down, fully clothed. The light buzzing overhead felt too bright, so I turned it off. The darkness was immediate and complete. I do not remember falling asleep. I remember waking up. The knocking. There was knocking. 3 slow taps. Pause. 2 taps. The sound came from the door. I lay frozen, listening. 3 taps again. I checked the time on my phone. No signal. The clock read 3:17 a.m. I did not move. The knocking repeated, slower now, more deliberate, not impatient, expectant. I slid off the bed and crossed the room. Every step felt loud in the quiet. "Who is it?" I asked. No answer. I looked through the peephole. The walkway was empty. I opened the door anyway. Cold air rushed in. The lights along the motel flickered weakly. On the ground in front of my door sat a folded piece of paper. I picked it up. Inside was a single sentence written in careful block letters. "Do not let them forget me." No signature. My throat tightened. I closed the door and locked it, pressing my back against the wood like it could protect me from whatever had just knocked. The paper felt heavier than it should have. I did not sleep again. Morning without memory. The next morning, Briar Hollow looked brighter, friendlier. The sun cut through the trees, painting the town in warm light that felt deliberately misleading. I went back to the diner. The same woman was behind the counter. She smiled when she saw me. "Mornin', hun. Coffee again?" She poured it without waiting for an answer. I asked her a question I had not planned to ask. "Did anyone die here recently?" Her smile never moved. "No," she said. Simple, final. I looked around the diner. The man from yesterday was gone. A different pair of locals sat at the counter, laughing quietly.
I tried again. "What about last night?" Her eyes flicked to mine, sharp, warning. "You had a bad dream," she said. It was not a question. Something cold slid down my spine. I reached into my pocket for the note. My fingers closed around nothing.
I knew I had put it there. I could still feel the paper in my memory, the weight of it, the texture, but my pocket was empty. I finished my coffee without tasting it and left. The man who died. It happened just after noon. I was walking past the hardware store when I heard shouting, a crash, the sound of glass shattering. People gathered fast, a small crowd, careful not to get too close. A man lay on the sidewalk, blood pooling beneath his head. He looked older, 70s maybe. His eyes were open, unfocused. Someone said he slipped. Someone else said his heart gave out. I knelt beside him without thinking. "Sir, can you hear me?" His lips moved. He grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. His grip burned cold. "Do not let them erase me," he whispered. Then his hand fell away. A woman screamed. Someone called for help. The sheriff arrived minutes later, tall, broad, calm in a way that felt rehearsed. Everyone stepped back. I stayed where I was. "What is his name?" I asked. The sheriff looked down at the body, then at me. There was a pause. "He did not have one," he said. "That is not funny," I said. The sheriff's expression did not change. "He lived alone," he continued. "No next of kin, no paperwork worth filing. We will take care of it." "Take care of what?" I asked. "Of him." The body was covered, lifted, taken away. Within minutes, the crowd dispersed. The sidewalk was washed clean. The hardware store reopened. The town exhaled. I stood there shaking. I had just watched a man die. I had heard his last words, and already no one remembered who he was. The sheriff. The sheriff caught up to me before I reached my car. "You should not involve yourself," he said. "In what?" "In things that do not concern you." I turned to face him. "People are dying," I said, "and you are pretending they were never here." He studied me like an insect pinned to cork. "That is how we survive," he said. My mouth went dry. "Survive what?" He stepped closer. "You ask too many questions, Cameron." My blood ran cold. "How do you know my name?" He smiled. "You told us," he said. I knew I had not. I drove back to the motel in a daze. My mind felt crowded, heavy, like something was pressing from the inside, testing my grip on my own thoughts. I locked myself in the room and sat on the bed, repeating names I knew. My parents, friends, teachers. I said them over and over like anchors. Then I said the name of the man who died. Nothing came. Blank. That was when I understood the truth that had been creeping toward me since the cemetery. Briar Hollow does not kill people. It deletes them. And now that I had noticed, it was going to decide what to do with me. I did not leave Briar Hollow after the man died. I told myself I needed proof. That was the excuse I gave my conscience. The truth was simpler and harder to admit. Something in this town had noticed me, and a deeper part of me, the part that had always chased unanswered questions, wanted to see what it would do next. The house with no photos. I started with records, or what passed for records here. The town hall was a narrow brick building with a flag out front and a bell that never rang. Inside, the air smelled of paper and dust. A woman sat behind the counter, filing folders into a cabinet that looked too full to close. She smiled at me in a way that did not reach her eyes. "I am looking for death certificates," I said. Her hands stopped moving. "Why?" she asked. "Research," I said. She nodded slowly and disappeared into the back. When she returned, she placed a thin stack of papers on the counter. There were only 5 names. 5 for a town that had existed for over a century. I flipped through them. Old dates, long ago. Nothing recent. "What about the man who died yesterday?" I asked. She tilted her head. "No one died yesterday." I felt a sharp pressure behind my eyes. I left before she could say anything else. The next place I went was a house on the edge of town. I do not know why I chose it. I just felt drawn there. It was well kept, fresh paint, trim hedges, a porch swing moving gently in the breeze. I knocked. A woman answered, mid-40s, pale, tired eyes. "Can I help you?" she asked. I introduced myself and asked a question that felt insane even as I said it. "How many people live here?" She hesitated. "Just me," she said. The house felt wrong the moment I stepped inside. Too quiet, too clean. There were no photos on the walls, no family portraits, no childhood pictures, nothing that said anyone had ever lived there before. "You have a big house," I said carefully. She nodded. "It used to feel bigger," she said. "Used to." I asked her name. She opened her mouth, closed it, her brow furrowed in confusion. "I do not remember," she said softly. Fear bloomed in my chest. "Do you remember mine?" I asked. She shook her head. That is when I noticed her shadow. It was faint, blurry around the edges, like smoke trapped under her feet. She followed my gaze and laughed weakly. "I know," she said. "I'm not all here anymore." The half gone. She told me her story in pieces. She had lived in Briar Hollow her whole life, married, had a son. She could not remember his face, or his name, or when he left. Every time she tried, her head hurt. "They told me to let it go," she said. "They said remembering hurts the town." "Who is they?" I asked. "Everyone," she said.
And no one. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, hands folded like she was afraid they might drift away if she let go. "People who stay too long start to fade," she said. "We lose details first, names, faces, then pieces of ourselves." "Why?" I asked. "Because the town needs room," she whispered. "Room for what?" She looked toward the window where the trees pressed close to the glass. "For the dead." The word hit me like a slap. "They are not allowed to stay," she continued, "but they do not always leave, so the town makes space." I asked her why she had not left. She smiled sadly. "I tried," she said. "The road loops, the signs change, and after a while you forget why you wanted to go." I stood to leave, my legs unsteady. As I reached the door, she grabbed my arm. "If you remember me tomorrow," she said, tears welling, "then I am still here." I promised I would. I do not know why I believed I could keep that promise. The loop. I tried to leave Briar Hollow that afternoon. I packed my car and drove toward the highway. The road curved through the trees, familiar but subtly wrong. The same bent sign appeared twice, then a third time. The gas station reappeared. My hands shook on the steering wheel. I drove faster, the scenery blurred, and then the town sign came into view. "Welcome to Briar Hollow." I slammed on the brakes. The sun had not moved. I checked my phone. Same time. No signal. I screamed.
The sound felt swallowed before it could echo. That was when I realized something else. The town was not just erasing the dead, it was keeping the living. The notebook. Back in the motel, I opened my notebook again. I wrote names in thick, dark ink. My own, the woman's, the man who died. I underlined them, circled them, pressed hard enough to tear the paper. I shut the book and waited. When I opened it again, my name was still there. The others were not. My heart pounded. The town was letting me stay whole, for now. A knock came at the door. 2 taps, pause, 3 taps, the reverse of last night. I opened it. No one stood there, but on the ground was another note. This one read, "You are remembering for them." I closed the door slowly. My reflection in the mirror looked wrong. Pale, eyes too sharp. I whispered the woman's description aloud. Her house, her voice, the way her shadow blurred. I spoke until my throat hurt. Outside, something shifted. The lights flickered. Somewhere in town, someone screamed, and deep beneath Briar Hollow, something old and hungry became aware that I was not playing by its rules. By the 4th night, Briar Hollow no longer felt like a place. It felt like a mouth. The dream that was not a dream. I did not fall asleep. I am certain of that. I lay on the motel bed, fully dressed, notebook clutched to my chest, staring at the ceiling fan as it turned without making a sound. My eyes burned, my thoughts looped. Remember, remember, remember. Then the room changed, not abruptly, not like a light switching off. It softened, like a photograph being gently pulled out of focus. The walls stretched, the air thickened, and I was standing. I stood in the middle of Briar Hollow's main street, but it was not the version I had seen since arriving. The buildings looked newer, the paint brighter, the trees thinner, and the people. There were more of them. They filled the sidewalks, talking, laughing, living. Children ran past me, their laughter sharp and clear. A woman bumped my shoulder and apologized without stopping. Life. Then a sound rolled through the street. Not a roar, not a scream, a low, resonant hum. The people froze, mid-step, mid-laugh. Every head turned toward the woods. The trees bent inward. Something moved beneath them. Not walking, not crawling, remembering. The first bargain. I saw it then, not with my eyes, but with something deeper. Briar Hollow had not always forgotten its dead. Long ago, something settled beneath the land, something that fed on memory the way fire feeds on oxygen. It did not kill, it did not hunt, it waited. When people died, their memories lingered, their grief echoed, their stories stayed alive in the minds of the living. That was the problem. The thing beneath the town grew stronger with every remembered death, with every tear, every spoken name, every anniversary, until the ground began to rot. Animals fled, crops failed, people disappeared in the woods. The town was dying. So they made a deal. "Forget the dead," the thing whispered, "and I will sleep. Erase them, and I will leave you alone. No rituals, no blood sacrifice, just silence." The cost. At first, it worked. Graves went unmarked, names went unspoken. The thing weakened, the town survived. But forgetting is never clean. Some memories clung, Some people remembered too hard, loved too deeply, refused to let go. Those people faded, not killed, not taken, unwritten. Their memories bled into the soil, their identities dissolved into the thing beneath the town, feeding it just enough to keep the balance. A cycle. Death, forgetting, survival. The sheriff's role. I saw the sheriff then, younger, standing with a group of town elders at the edge of the woods. He was not born into the job, he inherited it. Each generation chose a watcher, someone to redirect questions, someone to guide forgetting, someone to make sure the town stayed fed but not starved. Heroes were useful, martyrs were dangerous. That was why the man on the sidewalk had no name. That was why the woman in the house was half gone. That was why I was still intact. I was useful. The wake-up. I woke up choking. The ceiling fan snapped back into place. The sentry spun again, humming softly like it had always been there. My notebook lay open on my chest. A new page had been filled, not by me. You can leave, or you can replace us. I sat up, shaking. Replace who? The answer came without words. The forgotten. The visit. The knock came just before dawn. This time I did not open the door. Sheriff Halverson's voice carried through the wood, calm, measured. "You understand now," he said. I did not respond. "We protect people here," he continued. "Maybe not the way outsiders would, but people are alive, families are intact, children grow up safe." "At a cost," I said. "Yes," he replied easily. "Everything costs something." I opened the door. He looked tired, older than when I had first seen him. "You are remembering too much," he said. "It is pulling at things that should stay buried." "Why me?" I asked. He studied me for a long moment. "Because you do not belong to anyone here," he said. "No one will miss you enough to weaken the balance." The words landed like a blade between my ribs. He stepped closer. "Stay long enough, and you will forget yourself. That is mercy." Or, he leaned in, voice dropping, "You can help us guide the forgetting." I laughed then, a sharp, broken sound. "You want me to help erase people?" I said. He did not deny it. The choice. When he left, I packed again. I drove the looped road until the sign reappeared. I went back to the woman's house. The porch swing moved in the wind. The door was open. The house was empty. No furniture, no warmth, like she had never existed. Something inside me cracked. I returned to the cemetery at sunset. I stood among the blank stones and spoke every detail I could remember. Voices, faces, laughter, pain. The ground trembled, the air thickened, and deep beneath Briar Hollow, something stirred. Hungry, angry, awake. The first voice did not come from the ground. It came from behind me. I was still standing in the cemetery, my throat raw from saying names that no longer existed, when I felt a presence settle close, not touching, not threatening, just there. If you have ever stood beside someone in the dark and known exactly where they were without seeing them, you understand. I did not turn around at first. I said another name, or tried to.
The sound came out wrong, like the word did not want to exist in my mouth. That was when the voice spoke. "You remember too loudly," it said. It was not a whisper, not a scream, just a flat, tired statement, like someone correcting a mistake. I turned. A man stood a few feet away, or what passed for a man. His outline flickered, edges soft, as if he were made of smoke that could not quite hold its shape. His face shifted every time I tried to focus on it. I knew him, not by name, by feeling. "You died today," I said. He nodded. "And yesterday," he replied, "and the day before that." My stomach dropped. "How many of you are there?" I asked. He gestured around us. They came out of the trees, from between the graves, from the spaces where light should have been. Shapes, shadows, half people stitched together by memory and absence. Some were solid enough to cast faint shadows, others barely disturbed the air. Children, adults, elderly, all forgotten, all watching me. The weight of memory. "You are not supposed to see us," a woman said. Her voice sounded like wind through dry leaves. I swallowed. "I am not supposed to remember you either, am I?" "No," she said. "That is why it hurts." The pressure behind my eyes intensified. My head throbbed like it might split open. Remembering was not just dangerous to the town, it was dangerous to me. The thing beneath the town shifted again. I felt it like a distant earthquake under my bones. "It does not like this," one of them said. "What is it?" I asked. They exchanged looks. "It does not have a name," the man beside me said. "Names feed it. Figures. What happens to the forgotten?" They told me what came after erasure. At first, you drift, you wait, you think someone will come looking for you. Then you realize no one remembers your face well enough to miss it. You start losing weight, not in your body, but in your presence. Sounds pass through you. Time loses shape. Eventually, the thing beneath the town notices you. And then you are used. "Used how?" I asked quietly. "As insulation," the woman replied, "between it and the living." I pictured the ground beneath my feet layered with lost people like sediment. The town was built on forgotten lives. "They want out." "We cannot leave," the man said. "The roads do not exist for us." "Then why show yourselves to me?" I asked. "Because you are still whole," another voice answered, "and because you are loud." They stepped closer. The air thickened until breathing felt like wading through water. "You are pulling us back," the woman said, "just enough to hurt." I clenched my fists. "I am sorry," I said. They shook their heads. "Do not stop," the man said. The thing beneath the town growled. Not a sound, but a pressure that vibrated through the ground. The sheriff appeared at the edge of the cemetery, flashlight beam cutting through the dusk. "This ends now, Cameron," he called. The sheriff's fear. He did not step closer. He stayed near the trees where the light was strongest. "You do not understand what you are risking," he said. I laughed bitterly. "I understand exactly what you are risking," I said. "Your peace." He raised his voice. "If they are remembered, it wakes up all the way." "Good," I said. The forgotten stirred. A ripple passed through them.
He looked at them, really looked, for the first time, and he flinched. "They are not supposed to look at me like that," he said quietly. "You taught them how," I replied. "The first name returns." I said the woman's description aloud. Her house, her swing, the way her shadow blurred, her shape sharpened just a little. She gasped. "I remember my son," she said. The thing beneath the town screamed. The ground cracked. The sheriff staggered back, clutching his head. "Stop!" he shouted. "You will kill us all." "No," I said. "I will make you remember." The forgotten began speaking at once, names pouring out, fragments of lives, birthdays, arguments, songs. The town lights flickered, windows shattered. Somewhere someone screamed my name. The thing beneath Briar Hollow surged upward, furious and starving, and I knew then that there was no walking away. If this town was going to survive, it would have to face the dead it buried alive.
The ground did not split open. There was no fire, no explosion, no moment that felt cinematic or clean. Briar Hollow unraveled the way a mind does when it finally breaks. Slowly, then all at once. When memory comes back. The first scream came from the direction of the diner. It was not fear, it was recognition. I heard voices rise across town, overlapping, confused, panicked. People shouting names they had not spoken in years. Parents dropping to their knees in the street. Old men clutching their heads as if something inside them was clawing its way out. The forgotten pressed closer to me, their forms sharpened as memory flooded back into the living. Faces solidified, hands gained weight, eyes focused. They were not ghosts anymore. They were remembered, and remembering hurt. The sheriff breaks. Sheriff Halverson fell to his knees near the cemetery gates. He screamed once, raw and animal, then covered his face with his hands. I did not stop speaking. I could not. I said everything I knew, every detail, every fragment the town had swallowed. The ground heaved beneath us, not because something was rising, but because something was losing its grip. The thing beneath Briar Hollow shrieked without sound. I felt it pulling at my thoughts, trying to erase me the way it erased everyone else. I pressed my palms into the dirt and spoke louder. I said my name. I said their names. I remembered them harder than it could feed. The thing starves. Memory is heavier than forgetting. The entity had survived on silence, on absence, on the hollow spaces where grief should have been. Now the silence was gone. Every remembered life ripped something away from it. I felt it weakened like a tide pulling back. The pressure in the air eased. The sky seemed to widen. The forgotten cried out, not in pain, in release. Some dissolved into light. Others simply faded, finally complete. The woman with the porch swing smiled at me. "Thank you," she said. Then she was gone. The price. I woke up in the hospital. Machines beeped softly around me. My throat burned. My head throbbed. A nurse noticed my eyes open and hurried to call someone. The sheriff stood in the doorway when I was conscious enough to focus. He looked smaller, older. "The town will never be the same," he said. I nodded. Some people left, some stayed, some remembered things they wished they never had. What about me?
I asked. He hesitated. "You are still here," he said. But what?" He swallowed. "People forget you sometimes. Your face, your name, it comes and goes." I felt strangely calm. "I can live with that," I said. Leaving Briar Hollow. The road let me go this time. The town sign faded in my rearview mirror like a bad dream finally losing its grip. Weeks later, my investigation went public. Documents, recordings, witness statements. People watched, they commented, they remembered. Briar Hollow was no longer alone with its dead. Some nights I wake up unsure of where I am. My reflection looks unfamiliar. But I write, I record, I speak. As long as someone remembers this story, none of them are truly gone. Final word. If you ever find yourself in a place that feels too quiet, too clean, too empty of grief, ask yourself what it took to make it that way. Because some towns are built on forgetting, and some memories will burn their way back, no matter how deep they are buried.